Okay, President Obama, where are you? Crisis after crisis exploding around the world, and right here in the U.S., from Israel to Ukraine to our own southern border, and now many Americans scandalized by President Obama's focus on fundraising and Hollywood hobnobbing, making it look like that is his top priority.
I feel like the president only comes to L.A. for money.
I don't get that he likes the job. It's sort of, I think he almost hates the job.
I believe that the president is more so concerned about going to these fundraising events where he's applauded. It is all about him.
One of tonight's fundraisers was held at scandal producer Shonda Rhimes' house.
Stop. Please, stop getting my hopes up.
It's a matter more of him wanting the applause and being around people that worship him.
Hello, L.A.
It's where rich leftists meet in rarefied air to discuss the toxic origins of a country that created their opportunities for wealth.
And in just minutes, Karl Rove goes on the record, but right now, only right here, on the record, House Budget Committee Chair Paul Ryan unveils his new plan. Mr. Chairman, nice to see you.
Good to be back with you.
You have a plan to start a debate about poverty. What is it?
Well, first of all, I think hardworking taxpayers deserve a government that responds to them, that works for them, and they're not getting it. What we're taking a look at is we spend $800 billion a year on 92 different programs through the federal government to fight poverty, yet we have the highest poverty rate in a generation. People are slipping through the cracks. So what we want to do is change this conversation, is talk about reform that actually works. And instead of measuring success by how many new programs are created in Washington or how much money we spend on programs, why don't we measure it by results, by outcomes? How many people are we actually getting out of poverty? And what we've learned is from researching all of this throughout the last couple of years is that the federal government gets in the way in so many places. So we want to empower local communities, the people who are the boots on the ground, who are actually fighting poverty, streamline government and focus on customizing aid to getting people actually out of poverty and focus on results. We reformed welfare in 1996 and it was very successful. Work requirements, time limits, local control, experimentation in our states. That was one program. There are 92 other programs that have not been reformed like that. And what we're trying to do is take those lessons we learned successfully from welfare reform in 1996 and apply it to the other parts of the government's war on poverty, because we're on the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty and we're not winning it. What we're saying is take 11 different government bureaucracies and programs, consolidate it. That saves you a lot of administrative fees, bureaucracy, and send it back to our communities. The accountability is we measure. We measure and we publish results, and you have transparency. You see where the dollars are going, and you see what the results are.
That's where I wonder, who's doing that?
Yeah. So we propose an independent third party does this.
That could be the bureaucracy.
It could be a private sector firm. It's whatever the state decides to do. So you don't have the government measuring itself. You don't have the provider, be it a Catholic Charities or Lutheran Social Services or a state agency or a for-profit group like America Works, which has been very successful. Don't have them measure themselves. An independent third party does the measuring so that we as taxpayers see how our dollars are being spent and we see the results of these programs and we go where the results take us.
I would be all in favor of the federal government doing all of this if it reflected success. Totally. I mean, I'm just looking for success. That's not working. And it seems to me, I'm now sort of fixated on that we can't manage these things on such big levels.
Just look at our home state. You live in Appleton. You're from Appleton. I live in Janesville, and we have Milwaukee and Madison in between. Each of them, those communities have different problems, let alone the rest of the country. And we should have Washington dictate how these local communities solve these problems.
Well, each community is unique for whatever reason. And so I guess I go back to the whole idea is that the other side of the aisle does object to these block grants, and they're going to say to you that your proposal is just a new code word for block grants.
Yeah, I'm used to getting partisan labels or getting partisan slings and arrows thrown my direction. That doesn't really bother me. That comes with the territory of breaking up the status quo, with offering different new ideas. That's fine. Let's get to a conversation of what's your better idea. Everybody has a different situation in poverty. It's not just some monolithic problem where everybody's the same. People have different needs, people have different problems, and so our solutions ought to customize that. We ought to have aid that is customized to a unique person's problem so they don't have to go to all these various different welfare agencies and get these programs that actually disincentivize them to going to work, that make it pay to stay on welfare, not go to work. And so we need to fix that, customize it, and always focus on getting people from where they are to where they want to go, and that is get a good career, not just a job, but a career. And I would argue our poverty fighting programs don't do that. In many ways, they trap people in poverty.
This is unveiled today. Have you gone over this with Speaker Boehner?
I have not. Yeah.
What's the appetite, do you think?
Actually, this morning we talked about it just very briefly. He knew I was putting this out, and he wished me luck.
What's the appetite for having this done? I realize it's sort of it's a beginning of a discussion.
Right.
It's also referred to as a pilot program. But what's the likelihood?
I think we'll pass it by Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, right.
Yeah, no. The whole purpose of this, and I've learned this from legislating and from reforming government for a long time. You've got to start with ideas. You've got to begin the discussion so that you can get to consensus to actually affect change. And so that's what we're doing here is we're starting the conversation. We're adding some innovative ideas to the debate on how best to fight poverty more effectively so that we can have this conversation and get consensus and actually affect change. That takes time. It takes time to do these things. That's why we want to get started now.
Your party has been branded as being anti-poor.
I think that's people who basically want to stick with the status quo or want to have a partisan gain who say things like that.
Tough, this poverty in this country, isn't it? I mean, it's gotten, it's tough. So many Americans,
Sure it is. I mean, if we accept the status quo as unreformable, give up then. I mean, if you want to serve people in Congress and you think that you can't solve a problem that's a problem in our communities, you shouldn't be in Congress. So the way I look at this is I look at the condition of the poor and I see opportunity, I see potential, I see people who could be fantastic contributors who need assistance from getting to where they are to where they want to be. And we in the federal government are not doing our job to making sure that that occurs. And what I think the federal government in many places does is it displaces local solutions. It crowds out what we call civil society, local groups making a difference. And we want to empower that. We want the public and the private sector working together to help pull people out of poverty. And I would argue that Washington frustrates that. It should facilitate that.
All right, now this is where every journalist asks you the question of whether or not you're going to run for president. So I asked the question I always ask. Packers, how are they going to do this year?
We're going to do well. I think we had a good draft. You had a great pick on Ha Ha Clinton-Dix. You projected that pick. I think we're going to have a very good team. We filled the holes we had. As long as we're healthy, I think we're going all the way.
All right, so I don't get to ask the president's question. I'll leave that one for another day.
Right.
Nice to see you, sir. Thank
too.
you. And of course, you can see much more of our interview with Congress Paul Ryan and the discussion about what to do about poverty in this country on GretaWire.com. It's all there.